Hi, ladies. Welcome to week 4. This is the last week. Yay! You are almost done. Okay, so we're going to talk today about teacher relationships, recital prep, and another thing I can't remember. Recital prep and, tips for motivating your students. So, teacher relationships, recital prep, and tips for motivation. So under teacher relationships, first we're going to talk about the parent-teacher relationship. So this is your relationship, obviously, with the parent of the student. Under this relationship, parent-teacher relationship, write a couple things. I want you to write, cultivate it to be an open, friendly, and relaxed relationship. Cultivate it to be open, friendly, and a relaxed relationship. So from the very get-go, you're going to be dealing with the parent when you first are introduced to your student. So obviously the student-teacher relationship is important, but you are going to have longevity with this student if you really work on your relationship with the parent. And number 2, initiate the friendship. All right, so it is your job to initiate that friendship. And I realize you guys are teens, so this is going to be, you're probably going to feel a little bit like you can't relate to a parent, or maybe even feel a little intimidated. And this is where I don't want you to feel like you are not going to be able to teach this parent's child as well because you're not older. Because keep in mind, remember, the role of a teacher is somebody who has gained the knowledge and ability to articulate and pass down what they have learned to someone else. And our quote is, teachers can be made, not born. So anyway, your relationship with them should be open, friendly, relaxed, and you are required to initiate it. So obviously you would introduce yourself, you would, just be personable, be kind, and feel like you do know what you're doing. You do know what you're doing in a sense that you have played the piano and the parent most likely has not. So just try to have that relationship with the parent that you are on their side, you're on their team, and you also want a friendship with that parent, not just, okay, I'm coming in to teach your kid, okay, now you can leave, all right, nothing, there's no rapport, there's no relationship there, but instead, if you cultivate that relationship and really try to, hey, how are you doing? How are things going at home? You don't need to be too chatty because you have a job to do, but try to be interested in what's going on with their family, what's going on, if there's something about the student that you want to talk to the parent about, that kind of thing. Next thing would be to make sure you are punctual. Okay, so this is a tough one. At least for me it is. But you do want to make sure you're ready at least 5 minutes prior to the time of the lesson, just in case they come a little bit early. Now, if they're coming like 15-20 minutes early, I would try to make a point that you have set the time for whatever it is, 1:30 or whatever, 1:30, 2 o'clock, I don't know, whatever time it is. And make sure that if they arrive earlier, then they're not really meeting the requirements of the appointment. So, but if you make sure you're punctual, they'll see, oh, wow, she's really serious about this. Or he's really serious about this. And then the fourth thing underneath this underneath parent-teacher relationship is to dress professionally. So don't wear your pajamas. I don't think you would wear your pajamas, but wear what would look nice It doesn't need to be fancy, but something. I usually have a rule of thumb. I try to go with a nice blouse, and I might wear a pair of slacks or a skirt. Occasionally, when I was pregnant, I wore jeans because that was the only thing that fit me, but I try to steer away from jeans unless it's the only thing I have to wear. Not a huge deal if you decide to wear jeans, but just wear like a nice blouse or something. But don't go too casual, because the way you dress is the way you're going to represent yourself, and it's the way you're going to teach somebody, and how the parent is going to be seeing you do this, and okay, she takes this seriously. So if you're just wearing like a t-shirt and shorts, they might think that, oh, well, she was just outside in the pool or whatever, playing outside or whatever, and then she decided to teach my kid for 30 minutes. But if you're prepared, punctual, and you're dressing professionally, then they're going to take you seriously. So those are just some things along with parent-teacher relationship. And as we go along, there might be times where you have to address certain things about a student, whether they're not paying attention or listening very well to you, and that might be something you need to address to a parent. We can talk about that at a later time, but we're kind of talking more about that initial first impression, and then trying to keep that communication open between you and the parent at all times, because the parent is going to be your biggest advocate, your biggest fan, and your biggest supporter. Most of the time, piano lessons are not going to work out if the parent is kind of like about it. If they're kind of, if they're not completely dedicated, the child is going to say, I'm tired of taking piano lessons, and the parent is going to say, okay, that's fine. But if you're working at it and telling the parent, Johnny has made a lot of progress this week, or Johnny did really well this week, or hey, there's some issue or some things I need to talk to you about. Johnny's not practicing like he should. Do you think that you could sit in on a couple of his practices during the week to kind of help him get on the right track? Make the parent feel needed, and don't just say, okay, I'm going to teach them, and then you do your thing at home. Try to get involved and find out what's going on at home too. And again, like I said, we can talk more about this, but this is just your relationship with them just needs to be open, friendly, and relaxed. Let's move on. So student-teacher relationship. Student-teacher relationship, underneath this, you can put show that you care about them. That is probably going to be the most important thing for you to do. You could teach them how to play the piano and do a great job, but if you don't show them that you care about them, they're probably not going to practice, and they're probably not going to enjoy themselves, because all they're getting is just the mechanics and the instruction. But you really need to show, I'm proud of you for practicing your 5 days this week, or wow, you did a great job on that song. And even here's a good rule of thumb to go by, is when they first come in to your house or area of teaching, and your very first lesson with them, from the get-go, establish a time where you're talking to them about something other than piano. Because that establishes a relationship between the two of you, and it shows them that you care about them other than them being your student. So, for instance, if a student comes in, usually I will ask them, how are you doing? Before I ever ask them about the piano, how are you doing? You got anything going on that's cool, like any vacations, or do you have I don't know, anything planned or something like that? It's sometimes can be kind of hard to get that out, because usually I know when I'm asked stuff like that, I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then I have like other stuff going on that I could have talked about. So a child might forget. But a lot of times I know they're in a part of different activities, so I'll ask them, how's karate going? And they might tell me, since it's a something of interest to them, they might tell me about it. Or they might say, yeah, I went to my grandma's house last weekend and we did this, this, and this. Some kids are much more outgoing. Some kids are quieter. But always try to work at that relationship prior to lesson beginning. And then at that point, you can ask them, how did your practice go? What was your favorite song? That kind of thing. Just to kind of ease them into their lesson and not just immediately set down their books and playing the piano. It makes them more relaxed, and it helps them to understand that you're their friend and you care about them. So, number 2, treat them with respect. So I think that pretty much goes without saying. There's a mutual respect between the two of you. So obviously, I ask my students, if I am talking and I am trying to explain something to you, please don't play the piano. Please don't talk. Please, listen to what I'm saying, because that's the reason why you're here. But at the same time, if a student is trying to say something, ask a question, or maybe I can sense that they're not really tracking with me, then I'm going to pay them the respect that they deserve and try to find out what's going on in their head, because they're not just there to, hear my imparting words of wisdom. They're also there to voice their opinion and there to ask questions. And that is really, if they're asking questions, then they're learning. So keep that in mind. So there's a mutual respect there. Treat them with respect. Number 3, establish your authority. So yes, you are the teacher. Ultimately, what you say goes. The decisions that you make, that should be final. If you tell them they need to practice 5 days a week, and they continue to not do so, then you have to say, look, as your teacher, I need to tell you, you need to get back on track. And that's where your authority comes in. Don't let them interrupt you. That's not even good in the world, I guess you could say. Not that they're not in the world when they're in your lesson, but that's not good in any setting, really, especially with an adult. So don't let them kind of usurp your authority or interrupt you or be disrespectful. Number 4, recognize individual differences in students. So every student is different. Some are quieter, some are much more outgoing. Some are much more, and I say this with caution, some are a little bit more natural or gifted with music, and some might need a little bit more encouragement or a little bit more work. And that's not to say that the gifted ones are better, and the ones that are not are, not good students. They might be both great students, but you have to approach them differently and treat them both fairly and not favor, well, I really like teaching so-and-so over this one because he just doesn't seem to get it. That's not necessarily true, because they might just have different strengths. So you have to recognize that and treat them differently. Make sure you are reinforcing good behavior. So when they do well, this just basically just means when they do well, thank them for doing well, or recognize that and just say, hey, good job on your practice this week, or hey, great job on I can't think of anything at the moment. Great job on working on your dynamics. We talked about that last week. So especially if it's something that you've already told them to do and they do end up doing it, great job. Or even if you've had to correct them and say, Susie, I'm sorry, but I can't have you interrupt me right now. Then later on in the lesson, if they do a great job not interrupting, hey, I really appreciate you sitting there and listening to me very, very well. You did a great job with that. That will just kind of reassure them, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And I'm sure you kind of get that even when you have been corrected or reinforced good behavior, you probably feel kind of reassured and validated that that is what you're supposed to do. Number 6, encourage students as they play and avoid negative comments. So we've talked a little bit about this, but I think it's okay to, as they're playing, if they do something really, really well, to just kind of out of nowhere just say, great, that was good, or, ooh, I really like that, or something like that. That kind of encourages and keeps them going, and try to avoid saying, that was wrong, right in the middle of their piece, and it's like, it kind of hurts your feelings a little bit, and I know it would mine. So number 7, never use anger to maintain control. I usually, if a student is being disrespectful or things are kind of getting out of hand, my first thought is to start with a sequence. Like, I'm not going to tell them all at once, you need to be doing this, 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 and this, and this. Like, you need to be sitting in your chair and you need to be listening to me. I try to say, Johnny, I need you to, if he's being wiggly and not listening, or refusing to play the piano or something, I say, Johnny, I need you to sit on the bench for me. I need you to put your hands in your lap, and then they do it. And I need you to look at me. And I always get a gentler voice because I don't want them to be scared of me, okay? Because if I get angry and I get frustrated and I just, that is going to make them hate piano lessons, and later on is going to make them hate music, and I don't want that. So I get a gentler voice and I say, listen, our rules are this, this, and this. You have been doing this, this, and this. I really need you to fix that, because we can't continue unless you fix this, this, and this. And I always try to repeat, I need you to sit quietly in your seat, and I need you to listen to the words that I'm saying, because I'm asking you to play whatever it is, whatever song it is, or I'm asking you to, correct this certain spot, or whatever it is that I'm trying to show them. I'm trying to help you. I usually will always tell them, I'm trying to help you with this. So those are just some ways, instead of trying to maintain with frustration, to how to maintain control by other means. Number 8, make sure the studio is a pleasant place. This is kind of dependent on your home, but I probably don't have the best studio right now. One day I hope to have a little bit bigger, more space, and a little bit more of a secluded area, but try to make sure things are picked up and that you have access to stickers and pens and pencils and highlighters and things like that, things that you need. That way you're not going up in the middle of your lesson and trying to find that, have that available. But make sure it's neat and tidy, and that kind of thing. Make sure it smells nice. Those are just some things to think about. That makes it enjoyable for the student to come. And as you know, I do lots of different things with Student of the Week, where they put in their name when they practice. I've got other incentive programs going on, and I also have a bag of treats for them. So that is kind of up to your discretion and how your home is set up. And then the last thing is, lesson time is for the lesson. So we did talk a little bit about talking with them a little bit before the lesson. That shouldn't be very, very long. So during the lesson, I have had students randomly in the middle of their lesson say, we went to the lake the other day and blah, 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 and they kind of get on this rabbit trail. And I'm like, hold on. I said, listen, I talked to you before our lesson and you didn't tell me that. I said, that would have been a good time to tell me. But now it's time for us to learn. So I need you to wait to tell me all of that. And sometimes they're in the middle of a big, long story. And I'll just tell them, look, I need you to wait until we're done with our lesson before you tell me that story, okay? So I want you to stop, try to remember what it was, and tell me later. And usually they forget. But it's usually just because a thought pops in their head and they're like, I want to tell her right away, which is a good thing. They're open and they feel comfortable with you. But that has to be, that time for the lesson has to really be for the lesson, okay? So that's another thing. Last thing is, another relationship is adult student-teacher relationship. So if you have an adult student, adults often ask more questions. Something to think about. Adults want to see results. They're often perfectionists. So they want to see immediate results, whereas children are just okay with tinkering around and having fun and learning slowly. Adults want to be able to play a song that first lesson. Don't let your whole lesson time be trying to explain one concept. So if you spend the entire time talking about 4/4 time signature, they're going to get so bored and they're not going to get the results that they want. So no, they're not going to learn the piano, how to play the piano overnight, but they also need to see progress, and they're more results driven. And then the last thing, their mind will often be faster at picking something up than their hands will. So adult students, in this case is be a beginner student, would usually understand the theory and the mathematics behind reading music, and they will memorize the notes really fast, but their hands don't always do what they want them to do. So they can't often correlate what they have in their brain to their physical, the physical action that has to happen. And this can be frustrating for them because it's almost like riding a bicycle, and they're like, why can't I do this? And they've been, I think I mentioned this before, but they can drive a car, they work a job, they can cook, and there's so many other things that they can do, but their motor skills haven't been developed in that way. And they have, they might be in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. So they have all those years, they haven't been playing the piano, and they kind of forget that. So it's frustrating for them because they understand it, but they can't do it right away. Again, they're results driven, but beginner adult students can be fantastic students to teach because they can understand more than they can do. As long as they're practicing, they can move pretty quickly. Adult students are really fun to teach. All right, and then the last thing would be a relationship between your colleagues. So we had parent-teacher, student-teacher, adult student-teacher, and then old teacher versus new teacher. So for a colleague, never criticize a colleague. That would be a fellow piano teacher. Never criticize them. So if you hear somebody say, well, so-and-so taught my daughter from this curriculum. Okay, that's fine. That's great. I'm sure she did a great job, but I'd rather use this curriculum. Whatever. And they may even be speaking about me. They might say, well, Christy Aiello uses Piano Adventures. And if you prefer to use a different curriculum, then if you have a reason for it, then you stand by it. But don't criticize another teacher. Well, she doesn't know to not use that curriculum. Like I'm exaggerating. I'm using a really weird example too. But in this situation, you want to make sure that you're being uplifting to other teachers, and really criticizing other people doesn't make you look any better. It makes you look worse. So avoid negative feelings between other teachers and yourself. So if you know somebody, if you're a friend of a friend and they go with a different teacher, try to avoid that negative feeling. You might be kind of jealous or upset. Well, why didn't she come with me? Everybody has their reasons, and that's okay. So I really believe that everybody can learn something from everybody. So even though we might have different strengths and different weaknesses, I believe that, I had 3 or 4 different teachers in college, and every single one of them I loved, and I learned a lot from each of them. I have my sort of favorites, but every single one of them taught me a ton. And I don't have any, I know they didn't have any negative feelings about that, because they're supportive of other music teachers. Get to know other piano teachers in your area. So this kind of goes along with the first one. There are quite a few music teachers in this area that are a lot older. They've been doing it for years and years and years. And if somebody mentioned, somebody out in Old Lyme to me, I would say, Jane has been teaching for like 50 plus years. I wouldn't want to criticize her. I would want to make sure that they understand that I am supportive of Jane. Number 4, join local festivals with other teachers and their students. This may be a little difficult because you guys are too young, but when it comes time, it's great to get a part of the community and get in on what other teachers are doing with their students. All right, number 2, cultivation with the relationship with parents. We're going to talk about some different ways to cultivate that friendly relationship. Communication and keeping the parents updated. All right, this is key. This is just a line of communication that's going to develop that relationship. Have a clear policy sheet that is clear and enforced. You'll be going through Timeless Harmony Studios policy, so you don't really need to worry about that. Most of the stuff doesn't pertain as much to you, but as far as your communication with the parent is giving the student results, updating them on the student's results. So updating them on their child's results, I guess I should say. So positive communication, telling them, hey, your child's doing great. And then communicating with them what they should be practicing. So whether you're writing that down on an assignment sheet or whatever they're doing, what their practice should look like. This has to be ironed out in the very, very early beginning. And it's going to change throughout their time with you. So at first they might be practicing a couple songs 2 or 3 times each practice, and then they might eventually get to the point where they can sit down at the piano for a longer time. So they might be able to practice for 20 minutes. And then later on, they might be able to practice for 30 minutes each day. So it's going to change throughout, but you have to make sure that you communicate that to the parent, because if you only communicate it to the student's going to play it 2 or 3 times like they did previously, and the parents are going to be like, well, how much are you supposed to practice? And then the student will tell them. And then it's like, no, that I've told you like a month ago, you're supposed to practice 30 minutes. So just be clear with the parent, because the parent's at home and they're following up with the child. So make sure you're communicating with that. Trying to think of anything else that you'll have to communicate with them about. I will pretty much take care of all of the recitals and newsletters and things like that. Obviously, we'll go over more policy stuff later, but anyway, just make sure that positive reinforcement and communication is there with the parent. All right, moving on to recital prep. Oh, this video is getting really long. I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to try to go quickly through this. So recital prep. This is great. Recitals give the student an opportunity to glorify the Lord, and they also give the student an opportunity to play in front of an audience. So different types of recitals. We could use this for an example. A type of a recital would be like a recital class where the piece is still in progress. This may include sight reading or ensemble playing, and students and teachers can give feedback. This is what I was talking about before about a master's class, and I'm going to give you guys some examples of that and what it may look like. Another type of recital will be a public recital, and this is the kind that we're used to. This is a performance of memorized works, usually once or twice a year. So we say memorize, but not everybody can memorize or wants to memorize. So I allow the music, but usually at a true performance or competitive recital, you would have to memorize it. Moving on to like a mini recital, short recital given by one student, allows student to play longer and more advanced music, usually at the ending point. That would be like, for instance, the honors recital. That's an audition and all that, but that's kind of more of a short recital. All right, preparing your student for the recital. So this is what we really want to get into. So selecting the piece, you want to try to select it in plenty of time. I usually, when we do our recitals in December and in sometime in the spring, it's usually late May, early June. Lately, it's been early June, but I try to give them 4 months to work on it. Sometimes we'll pick 2 or 3 and allow them to choose from it, or if it's a theme-centered recital, then we'll kind of just hammer out what they're going to play ahead of time. Remember to select something that is grade and age level appropriate. Okay, so grade, we could specifically talk about their grade or even their level in their music. And also think about their age. So a 5-year-old is not going to play the same beginner piece that an 8-year-old would play. You want it to be a little bit harder than where they're currently at, just a little bit, depending on how much time they have. But you want to make sure you don't pick something too hard. So think about, say you have a 5-year-old that starts with you in September. They're going to be learning between September, October, and November. Now, you don't want to give them the recital piece late November. That's too late. I would say somewhere, for a beginner, it's kind of tough, but somewhere late October, early November, because if they're just starting learning how to play the piano, they're not going to know much in all of September. But by October, November, try to select a piece that's around that level that they're at in their book. So you're going to have to kind of lesson plan a little bit and figure out where they're going to be at that point. And every student's different. So if you get through September and realize they're not going to be quite as far as you thought, then you might have to select something different. That's where coming in, or where selecting 2 or 3 pieces comes in, so you can select an easy piece and then maybe something a little harder. Sometimes I've done that and I've realized that, oh man, this is too easy for them. So I have to select something a little bit more difficult. And they sometimes surprise you and impress you with what they can do. So preparing for the piece, make sure they avoid mistakes by correcting them immediately. All right, so try to make sure they're not playing through it and stopping and going back and fixing it, okay? They can fix those mistakes in a longevity type of way, not immediate. You're going to be working on fingering, dynamics, and rhythm with them. Be positive and stress expressive playing. So expressive playing is better than accurate playing, in my opinion. But if you're positive about it, like, I'm really excited about you playing this, and it may not be perfect, but I'm really excited about it, they are really going to enjoy it a little bit more. And this also, memorization, we've talked about this a little bit with subconscious and conscious memorization. That might come into play later on. Little kids usually memorize stuff quickly. So if they're a beginner student and they have been playing this for 3 weeks, might come in 1 week and say, I memorized my piece. Well, awesome. That's great. But again, remember that they might just be using the subconscious memorization. So try to make sure that you don't have to tell them that. They're not going to know what subconscious means. But make sure that they can play the piece at any point in the song, and that means they truly memorized it. Teach them how to bow. I think I've already gone over this with you guys, but bend at the waist, look at your shoelaces on your shoes. Those are good ways to teach them. Dealing with nervousness and distractions. So nervousness is to be expected. You can't really fight it and you can't control it. It's just going to happen. But I've told students, if you use that energy that you're getting from your adrenaline, it's a natural thing, it's a scientific thing, then use that energy that you have to pour into your piece. And try to remind them, you know what? I'm very proud of you for being brave enough to get up and play this. I don't even want you to worry about the outcome, because once a student has learned it and can play it well for you in their lesson for a couple weeks in a row, they have learned that recital piece. And nervousness sometimes will kind of make that go out the window. If they get nervous, they might freeze up and forget something. But remind them that no matter how the outcome is at the recital, you're still proud of them. Practice playing in front of your teddy bears. That's a good little tip. You could have them kind of prep for that, or in front of their family. It's always good to practice and deal with that nervous energy, or to record theirself. That's a good thing. Distractions, practice playing through distractions. So not stopping in the middle of the song, but just to learn to keep going. All right, so moving on to incentives. So we've talked about a little bit about this, but games. Remember, if you're going to use a game in a piano lesson, it needs to have a specific goal, okay? So whatever your goal is, to teach them rhythm, how to count rhythm really well. Or if it's to teach them their notes, they're naming their notes, or intervals, or whatever, had a specific goal. But games are to encourage practice, attendance, memorization, etc. There's other ways to get them to learn. Have them write a music report. So you could give them a little biography of, I don't know, J.S. Bach or Beethoven, and have them basically rewrite that for you in their own words. Give them something to work for. So a lot of the incentive programs will be provided by myself, but if you have extra stuff you want to do, go ahead and do it. I think that's great. Prizes in the lessons, some good things to use are candy, stickers. You can also put stickers in their lesson book on top of each song. Little kids love this because they like that accomplishment. I want to put my sticker on my song and I finished that song. Play money, point system, which we've done before, and words of praise. So your biggest things are going to be, if you want to provide them with candy for practicing or whatever, stickers, and then words of praise. Those are going to be your biggest things for yourself. Now, words of praise is probably going to be the easiest and cheapest way to motivate them. Okay, so try as much as you can to be specific about words of praise too, not just saying, good job, that was a good song. Try to say specifically, you kept the rhythm really steady during that song, and I really enjoyed it. Or I really, really enjoyed how you played really loud right here. Something like that. That is where that kind of, again, that's positive reinforcement, and that's the words of praise that they need to hear to give them the satisfaction that they did a good job. All right, and that pretty much covers it. I have so much more information that I want to give you guys, but I had to really condense it and try to make this short. So if you guys have any questions, as always, I'm here as a resource to you, and I probably will be giving more information or resources to you throughout either the rest of the summer or even the beginning of the year, beginning of the fall year. So let's go over week 4, your assignments. You listened to the YouTube at this point. You're going to finish your quiz. Now I want you to observe your lessons and turn in your student evaluation form. So this is, I understand, is not going to happen until end of August. So I will, eventually I'll be sending out a schedule, and you guys will just pick and choose who you want to observe, depending on what student it is. Again, this is supposed to be an observation of myself. This is not an observation of the student, but just to kind of see how things go. And I know you guys have been in lessons with me, but you guys are also older, and I deal with you differently because you're older. But to kind of, after you've learned some of these things, to observe them. So things that we talked about, like demonstration, analyzing, critiquing, things like that. And that pretty much covers it. And today, I believe, this week is the first week of music camp. So this is going to be exciting because you're really going to get a chance to apply some of these things in helping with music camp. So I'm really excited about that. I know we're going to have a lot of fun. So I hope you guys were able to get a lot out of this. It was a joy for me to be able to present this to you. It has been a desire of my heart for a long time. And I'm really thankful for students that are willing to put up with these long videos and willing to go through this program. And I hope that I can be a help to you and that you will be able to use this information for your own teaching. So with that being said, I think we'll end this video, forever long video, and I will see you guys at music camp. Bye.